on the registration page or on the registration thank you page. Okay, so that's the concept of these pre-built Facebook events. And again, it requires some additional manual code. And then there are custom conversions that are URL based. So like I said, Facebook makes all this stuff very complicated because within conversions, there's two fundamental ways you could do it. One, you could create URL based conversion rules. And oftentimes you could accomplish the exact same thing using two different approaches in Facebook. So for example, I could create a registration conversion through either custom conversions or through events, because Facebook happens to have a pre-built event conversion for registrations. So I could use that, or I could just create a URL base that if anybody gets to this thank you URL, fire this specific conversion. Now, I would say that if you can use the pre-built, if you can use Facebook's pre-built events for conversions, and they have a lot of the core ones, like they have add to cart, initiating a checkout, adding payment info, purchasing, subscribing, starting a trial, you should, because Facebook has a lot of default reporting columns that include their default events, and it's just easier to report on. So that's my own advice, is like it's better to use Facebook's pre-built events and avoid URL-based conversions if possible for that reason. And then there's another reason, because like let's say you change your URL at some point. Right, you have a thank you page, and you happen to change the URL of that page. Maybe you want to make it shorter or cleaner or whatever that may be. So if you're using Facebook's default events by adding manual code to that page, then you don't need to make any modifications to the actual conversion event, and it'll still work because it's based on the code in the page and not based on a URL that you're feeding to Facebook. But if you change the URL and you're using custom conversions URL based, you'll have to go back into Facebook and edit the actual custom conversion event that you've configured. And then Facebook makes it pretty easy to test event tracking and configuration and things like that. And I'll show you the tools for that as well. Facebook also has a bunch of these partner integrations, and I'll show you how those work. And it just makes tracking events and pixel installation easier for a lot of the core CMS systems like Shopify, WordPress, HubSpot, etc. In most cases, I recommend still installing the pixel through Google Tag Manager. It's just very easy, flexible, and you could then create a lot of additional rules, and it's just a very, very intuitive and easy to use software. So I would recommend that. And I'm going to show you Google Tag Manager in a moment. And remember, the pixel and custom conversion events are not the same thing. So I want to reiterate that. The pixel is your core piece of script that I showed you in the beginning that you're going to install everywhere. Anywhere, any single page where somebody might eventually land, you want to have that pixel. Blog pages, home pages, inner pages, product pages, subdomain, root domain, thank you pages, registration pages, etc. Just, webinar pages, get that pixel everywhere. The greater width and breadth your core audience has to it, the more nuanced you'll be able to segment out for specific use cases. And lastly, tracking value. We're going to cover this in a few minutes. It's very easy to track value in Facebook custom event conversions. And I want to just talk to you about the benefits of tracking value, which is conversion value. If you're telling Facebook rather, the revenue you're generating from a conversion, and usually these will be purchase conversions, but you should also be tracking revenue for form submission conversions. Facebook can show your return on ad spend in their ads reporting. So if you're running an ad campaign, not only will you be tracking the number of sales or purchases or registrations you're getting, Facebook will also be able to tell you the value of those, and then you can compare it to you could do a total conversion value divided by cost of the ads to get your return on ad spend. More importantly, Facebook can optimize ads for higher value conversions. So if you have multiple different purchases on your site, and if there's multiple different purchases and each purchase has a different value, Facebook could actually optimize for higher value conversions. And of course, if you're running e-commerce ads, you would connect your Facebook account to the Shopify partner integration, and Facebook will dynamically track the conversion value of a sale. You can optimize your campaigns for ROAS as well. So you could set budget optimization and campaign optimization if you're running paid Facebook ads to specifically optimize for higher value conversions. But of course, you have to be sending that value back into Facebook you have to be sending that value back into Facebook through your conversion tag that Facebook gives you. And again, you could add value. Remember, we talked about there was two different ways you could track conversions, either through custom URL based conversions or through Facebook's default event library. Either one of those two options allows you to add value and a currency. And I'm going to show you how that looks, and we're going to get into it. So anyway, that's the basic idea here with what I want to cover. I think we've covered a good amount already, just understanding the difference between pixel, the different ways to track events, what you do with the pixel. But now I'm going to just show you step by step how all of this stuff is done, starting with the actual Facebook pixel. And let's get into it right now. So here we are in a Facebook ads campaign. And this is where, like most of you, probably spend most of your time inside a Facebook ads campaign. And Facebook, like I said, makes it a little bit complicated to find where everything is, but let me show you. So first is getting the pixel, because we said the most important thing is getting that pixel onto your site. So if you go into Ads Manager, if you're in Ads Manager, you're going to navigate up into this menu up here, and you're going to go down to all tools, and then all the conversion tracking stuff and tools and data analysis is all going to be under the measure and report column right here. So you can go into Events Manager, and then you could navigate into any of these subcategories, or you could just go straight to pixels. So let's just go to Events Manager, and then we'll navigate to pixels. So like I said, Events Manager is where everything is going to live. So I'm going to go into Data Sources, which is the default. And from Data Sources, you're going to click on your pixel. So this is the overview of the activity of this specific pixel. And you have a secondary submenu where you could test different events, diagnostics, and settings. I happen to know I have a little warning here. That's because my currency is not set up the way it should be, but it's still tracking, so it's okay. Over here, you'll see an important tool that tells you the status of your pixel and the last event that was received, in my case, 21 minutes ago. So now, say you haven't installed your pixel yet, so you want to go ahead and install your pixel. So that's going to be under Setup. Up here on the upper right-hand corner, you're going to click Setup, and then you're going to click Install Pixel. And you have a couple different ways to install your pixel. Like I said, you could connect to a partner platform, and Facebook will give you a list of partner platforms. So there's Webflow, that's pretty good. It's Ticketmaster, WordPress, 3D Cart, Google Tag Manager, and all these things. And I don't know why, I just choose to do it myself through Google Tag Manager. I'm using Kajabi for some of my learning, as a CMS for my courses, etc. And this agency overdrive video that you're watching right now is hosted on Kajabi, so I could install my pixel by clicking this partner connect. But I just like to do it myself, and it's worthwhile knowing how to do it yourself in case you need to install a Facebook pixel and there isn't a partner integration set up. So I'm going to click again, install pixel. And I'm going to select to manually install the pixel code myself. And if you have a developer, you can just email the instructions to a developer, voila, and that's great. But of course, in the agency overdrive, we're trying to learn how to do all these things ourselves as best as possible with as much fluency as possible. So we'll manually install the pixel code, and really, really easy. The first thing Facebook's showing you is not actual code. They're just explaining to you where it should go. So they're saying they want you to put insert pixel code here. This code down here is what's supposed to go in the header section of your site. Now, I want to just make this clear because a lot of people have a lot of confusion about this. If the code is in the footer section of your site, it'll still fire. If it's in the body of your page, it'll still fire. Facebook wants it in the header of the page, and you should put it in the header of the page because guess what? The header of your website loads first. So in case there might be some, video in the body that's taking a while to load and the footer code hasn't loaded yet, if you have the Facebook pixel in the header of your site, you'll have a greater chance of collecting a user even if the rest of the page doesn't load. But it'll work wherever. The other advantage of putting it in the header is that it'll typically then be installed on every single page of your site. So I have Google Tag Manager installed on my site, and you should have Google Tag Manager installed, and it's very, very easy to install. So what I would do here is by the way, keep all this turned on, which is very positive for Google getting better data when it comes to optimizing campaigns. And the main thing though is we're going to go into here, copy code to clipboard. You just click that right there. And then you're going to go into if you're going to do this directly in the back end of your site, that's fine. If you have WordPress, you can have a tag manager. There's plenty of great tag manager plugins. If you're on Squarespace, there's a place to add header code for the whole site. Wix and Weebly, they all have all these website builders, including HubSpot and these other more modern CMS systems, and even Shopify and all the 3D Cart, Magento, BigCommerce. I've used them all. They all have an easy place to just inject header code. That's what you're looking for. But I'm going to show you how to do it in Google Tag Manager because it's the best place to do it. So here I am in a Google Tag Manager account. And most of you, when you log into Google Tag Manager, you'll be on this overview page. It'll show you what domain it's on. And you go into tags. And I happen to have the Facebook pixel tag installed already. But if you don't, I'm going to show you how to do it. So you're going to click New for a new tag. And you're going to title it. So you'll title it something like Facebook Pixel. And I already have it. Oh, okay. Facebook Pixel. And you're going to configure your tag first by clicking that button. And go figure, Google Tag Manager doesn't have a default Facebook pixel integration, last I checked, but it doesn't really matter because you're just going to simply use a custom HTML tag down here. So you can go to custom HTML tag, and then you simply paste in what you have from your clipboard. It's right there. That's that. And then you go to triggering. So you need to trigger this pixel. So you need to tell Google Tag Manager when this pixel should be triggered. So for a lot of different types of tags, let's say you have a tag for an exit popover that you might only want to trigger on a certain page. But I'm going to trigger it on all pages, and that's a default trigger that Google Tag Manager comes with. Simple enough. Save. And then remember, by the way, once you've saved it, you must submit the container and then you publish that container. And of course, by the way, you have to have a container added to your site already. And that's the beauty of Tag Manager, is all you need to do is add one tag to the back end of your site one time, which is the Google Tag Manager container tag, and then all the additional tags you just do through this beautiful Tag Manager interface, which is fantastic. Now, if you want to just double check to see if the tag is working on your site, Google Tag Manager has a really great preview and diagnostics tool that allows you to go to your site and actually see which tags are firing when. So I'm going to click over here, preview, and I'm going to show you this preview tool real quick. Now Google Tag Manager is going to reload in preview mode, right? So it says now previewing workspace, and I'm just going to open up one of the pages that should have this tag. And you'll see on the bottom, something will pop up and it'll show me, and this is a Tag Manager preview and debug toolbar that you could scale up and down. And it'll show me the tags fired on this page. So I see Facebook Pixel, which is the original one, and this FB Pixel, which is the new one. So I know that it's firing on the page as it should be. And remember, with the Facebook Pixel, all you want and all you are looking for is that it's firing. We're not looking for custom conversions right now. We just want to know that this pixel is firing. Now I'm going to go actually delete that tag because I already have my Facebook Pixel. So this is one I just created. So if I go into it, I could go click this three dot icon and just delete it and delete it. And now it's gone. And I'm going to submit again. You have to always submit after changes and publish and continue. And then I'm going to leave preview mode. Go back to my workspace. And I'm going to leave preview mode. And that will allow me to continue on going back to the site. And if I refresh, this preview and debug toolbar will not be visible. Okay, now let's continue on. Now that we've installed our tag in Tag Manager, let's continue on a little bit. And that brings us back to our pixel overview dashboard showing activity, purchases, etc., so on and so forth. And of course, if it's a new pixel, all this will be blank, but this report will eventually become filled in, and you could change the date range, and it's just like any other reporting. We don't need to go into that. But let's create an audience. So over here, we're going to create up here. And again, if you ever get lost, you always just go back up into this menu, go back to all tools, you go back into the events manager, and this is where everything lies, in the events manager. So you go into your data source for your specific pixel, and we're going to create an audience. Remember, we said audiences are segments of our population. So I might want to create it. So by default, you could create, Facebook allows you to create an all website visitors. That's the default audience. Now, you don't have to create these audiences right away. Okay, so some people think like, oh, do I have to create the audiences right away? It'll look retroactively at all the data that's collected so far. It's not going to only collect data moving forward. Okay, that's a big thing to understand. So don't worry. Like, you could just add your pixel to the site, and in 60 days from now or 30 days from now, if you're coming to create audiences, it'll look back at all the data in the database, which is why, just to reiterate, it's so important to add that pixel to your site right away. This is also an important toggle over here. Include people who meet any or all of the following. So this is an and or statement for creating rules for pixels. So let's say I want to create a remarketing audience of, let's say I want to create a campaign that targets people who bought from me in the past, but also people that visited a specific page. So let's say I would go and say, okay, people who visited a specific page in the past 30 days, I can make it 90 days or whatever it is. And the URL contains something like a specific blog post. Maybe I had blog, webinar, sign up. I don't know. You have to go and grab that URL. And again, you don't have to put in the full URL. And I could also create another rule, and the URL also has to match another URL. So you can get as creative as you want, and you could remove that. So I could further refine. So I could say that people who have visited this page more than 2 times. And again, like, this is not something which is used that often. And you can also further refine by device. So I could say that I only want to put people on this audience if they've met this criteria above on any of these devices. All right. So again, not usually used that often. I can include more people. I can create another rule. So if I have any of these following criteria, it's this or this. So maybe I want to have let's say, completed a purchase in the past 30 days, right? That's, I'm willing to, this audience will then contain anybody who purchased in the past 30 days or anybody who viewed this specific URL. But if I change this to all, it's going to be changed to an and statement. So now the only people on this list will be people who purchased and people who viewed this webinar sign up. And I could further narrow and create more rules, and you can get very, very creative. There's literally limitless amounts of different types of audiences that you could create. It's pretty cool. So let's say, okay, I'm going to create all people who purchased in the last 90 days, and I'm going to name it purchasers last 90, just to just so I could remember what that is when I go to create an ad to a command. So now go and create the audience. And that's that. I've created a custom audience. And now there's a couple things I could do. So I could use that custom audience in an ad campaign. So I could say, if I have a new product that I think will be good for my existing customers, I could target my ads to previous purchasers. But I could also create lookalike audiences, and that's another very powerful thing. I could say, all right, I want to create a new campaign targeting new people, but I want Facebook, but because I have a good amount of data on previous purchasers, I want Facebook to take a look at this lookalike audience. I want Facebook to take a look at the characteristics of this audience of people who have bought from me in the past and find new people like them that Facebook thinks will also become new customers of mine. So you can create lookalike audiences from audiences. You could also use those audiences themselves as a targeting parameter in a campaign. And then you can go ahead and create another audience. You can keep creating as many custom audiences as you'd like. So that's the idea of creating custom audiences. And there's no additional coding necessary. Once you have the pixel on your site, you can create as many audiences as you want without any additional modifications to the code. Now let's go ahead and create a custom conversion. So let's say I want to create a conversion. If somebody gets to this page, this is a page on my website it's a sales page. It's a webinar offer page where people could actually check out. And say I want to create an audience of anybody who's reached this page, but did not actually check out, for example. Or I'm sorry, rather I want to create a conversion event for anybody who's reached this page. So I'll just copy the string, this URL string, and I'm going to create a custom conversion. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to come in here, I'm going to create a custom conversion. And again, custom conversions are all URL based. So URL contains, and I paste that in, and I could do an or statement. I could add additional rules, and I'll name that anybody who, let's say, viewed webinar sales page. The category will be, let's see, view content, and the value, meaning the value is not clear here because this is not an actual purchase, but let's say I know that my conversion rate is 1%, right? And my conversion rate is 1%, and the value of this sale is $500. So I'll just put a $5 conversion value over there, $5 US dollars, and I'll create that conversion. And again, I don't have to use that conversion. I don't have to use it. I don't have to optimize any campaigns for that conversion right now. But eventually, I might want to use that. And this is also important when you talk about micro conversions, because say, for example, I'm running you're running a campaign for a webinar, and you're making an offer at the end of that webinar, or you're actually trying to sell a product off your website, and it's expensive, and you don't have that many sales per day, but you have a lot more people reaching the sales page. So instead of optimizing a Facebook campaign off of a specific actual end sale, you might want to test optimizing a Facebook campaign or a Facebook ad set off of a micro conversion, off of somebody actually reaching the sales page, because that will be feeding Facebook's algorithms more data. And I've spoken about micro conversions in the past. We've been doing that a lot for Google ads.